Welcome into That's a Tap, our recap of UFC 304 Manchester. We've got DJ here, I'm CT. Great to be with you, DJ. How you feeling?
Good, good, good. What's up, CD? What's going on? Long time. 3 days. 3 days since UFC 304.
Yeah, we watched 304. Um, we're gonna give our reactions, we'll give out our grades, of course, but man, it was action packed, man. It was pretty eventful. A lot of
Yeah,
controversy, like always. Dana, always candid in his post presser, but we have to start with the major upset, and we'll revisit our predictions and pat each
mm,
other on the back or laugh at each other. But
yeah,
man, what an upset, man. How did you see it?
yeah. Look, the result, when we broke it down, we did say it's a possibility. Bilal Muhammad can win, and he's that good. And, one thing I pointed out is that if they both go into the fight expecting the same fighters that stepped into the octagon 2 years ago when they had that first fight, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. And I can't help but feel that Leon Edwards went in thinking that. Yes, it did take him seriously. Yes, he did his training camps, but I feel like part of him was like, man, I was dismantling this guy in the first fight. So how much can he change? And I think we pointed out the Gilbert Burns fight. That fight was an indication of the growth of Bilal Muhammad in terms of, coming off of for a short notice fight and performing and putting a non-stop pace across 5 rounds against a top tier welterweight. Um, and look, it seems like that element was there. I was surprised with Leon Edwards in terms of his lack of urgency at times as well. And I know we've spoken about this offline, and I know there's a lot of chat about this, which is the timing of the cards. Didn't really suit the local fighters. But at the end of the day, you cannot take anything away from Bilal Muhammad. He came in fully prepared, had a really good game plan. He sort of the whole week was telling us, "Look, I am going to do this. I'm going to get it done." And most of us were doubting him. And look, he proved all doubters wrong. I know we both picked Leon Edwards to win. Um, Bilal Muhammad proved us wrong, and it wasn't just a win by a small margin. I personally felt it was a clear win. I thought the right person won, and it was a deserved victory. I know Leon had that moment in the fourth round, sorry, third round, if I'm not mistaken, and then also that last bit of the fifth round. But man, it was overall that fight across 5 rounds was Bilal Muhammad's fight, and he won it clearly. And look, man, great scenes. Even in Manchester, you see the roads are blocked, and sort of his fans sort of swarming him, and he's parading with his belt, and it's nice to see. It's heartwarming to see, and it's also something that he's put in a lot of effort. He's been on this crazy win streak, and obviously could be his fighting style, or could be his lack of in this fight, I think this lead up actually did a lot in terms of talking up the fight and creating some drama there. But prior to that, it was always like his performance did the talking. And it's good to see like him getting rewarded, like finally getting that title shot and getting it done. And from what we can see in the post fight press conference and from what he said, he wants to be an active champion. But yeah, look, what did you think, CT? Like, obviously, I know like you were very invested in this fight, and we were talking as the fight was going, and sort of the general shock and how things were panning out. What's your reaction?
Yeah, genuinely surprised how dominant, Bilal was. Not that like you said, not that we discredited him getting a chance to win, but just the way it
Yeah,
happened and the domination in the first, like 4 rounds. But I want to say congrats to him because he definitely brought his A game. And look,
yeah,
better than everyone. Fighters can get better, over
yeah,
time. And I think he deserves the win, and he definitely outclassed Leon. But other two elements that I want to add on top of that was that I do feel like the time, and I think
mm,
Leon may not have, taken him as seriously as he possibly could have earlier, going down in the first 2 rounds. Also, we heard from his coach that he had a back complaint or a back injury as well, which makes sense because grappling wise, he just couldn't even prevent the
mm,
takedown. He just looked completely helpless, and I don't really remember seeing Leon that that dominated in terms of just,
Mm.
Bilal was just taking him down at will, whenever he wanted. But Bilal's difference was his striking in this one, DJ. It's like the very first time you remember we saw Islam and Khabib
Yeah,
like really up their striking game, and you're like, wow, like if you bring that element to your game, you can really dominate with your wrestling.
man. So I'm looking at the strike numbers, and Bilal outstruck Leon. So significant strikes, 68 to 47. Total strikes um, thrown 281 to 114, landed 192 to 89. I mean, I never thought, look, even if, like, while we were saying there is a chance, there's a possibility Bilal will win, I did not think a scenario where he will outstrike Leon Edwards, and which he did. Again, like, I know, like, we can talk about all these injuries and stuff, but it's you still got to give, like, obviously the credit to the winner, and to be able to come and outstrike someone like Leon Edwards, it's an amazing feat. And then you're right, man. Like, I was, in terms of the dominance in the grappling department, the wrestling department was amazing. I mean, look, we always knew Bilal Muhammad was a really good grappler, really good wrestler, but working with that Khabib's team in terms of his conditioning, and in terms of his, fine tuning his skill set, that's very obvious. I'm actually now, after this fight, quite intrigued to see a matchup between him and Kamaru Usman, or him and Colby Covington, given how strong of wrestlers they are. It's you know, honestly, I don't know if that's the next fight that'll happen. I'd like to actually sort of see what, So in terms of what the next fight is, what your preference is, or what you think the next fight is going to be. We
Yeah.
know it's not going
So
to be a rematch, right? We know it's not going to be a rematch because Dana White shut that down.
yeah. So for Leon or for Bilal.
For Bilal, actually.
Yeah. So for Bilal, I would love to see the shove cut. Uh,
Yeah.
I think Shavkat deserves it right now, and then I do think that Leon, yeah, should really, you know, fight Jack Della. Like I think that was thrown out there. Like, hey, you're not the champ anymore. Jack Della's a
Yeah.
young, hungry lion. If not
Man,
Jack Della, like who else do you think would be in
there was a
line?
name thrown out for Leon, which was Ian Gary, because he's obviously beaten.
Yeah, good
Who did he
one.
beat last? Yeah, MVP. So it's a grudge match as well, because they, for the shortest of time, were in the same gym, and there was that sort of controversy that stemmed from that, where Leon Edwards called Ian Gary a diva, and they obviously clashed, and they're out. That's another fight that Ian Gary's on his way up. He's fought some really serious contenders. He's knocking on that top of that division, undefeated, pretty good. But man, you know what? Actually, if Jack Della's healthy, that's the fight I want to see. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see our guy, make it to the top. I mean, if you can get over Leon Edwards, that means, like, you're there. You're there for that next title shot. Now all of a sudden everyone's calling out. I saw Colby Covington was calling him out. Kamaru Usman saying he wants to fight him. It's interesting how the dynamic shifts when you win the belt. And similar story with Leon Edwards as well. When he was having that massive win streak, no one wanted to fight him, and then when he got the belt, everyone wanted to fight him. It's interesting, but I agree with you 100% from Bilal Muhammad. It has to be Shavkat. It has to be. I mean, this guy hasn't fought in a while. I think it's too quick of a turnaround for Abu Dhabi. I would love it if they can add that in there. Seems like Islam's not going to fight in Abu Dhabi in October because of his hand surgery that we found out last weekend, which means they are talking about Ilya Topuria and Max Holloway for that UAE card. Sorry, not UAE, Abu Dhabi card, and it'll be amazing if they can get Bilal in there as well. But I don't know, like, what is it, August, September, October? I mean, technically, there's like about a 10-week camp, but is it fair to get the champion to put a champion under that much pressure to turn around? If not Madison Square Garden, that'll work out perfectly as well. Because remember, Shavkat hasn't fought in a very long time, right? So Shavkat's ready to fight. He's itching for a fight. The fight that was meant to happen was in Perth with Jack Della. Jack Della's obviously nursing an injury, which means he's free, and let's make that fight happen, because I'd like to see that sooner rather than later, because now there's even more intrigue given how good Belal is and from what he's showcased. And then you got on the other end Shavkat, who's undefeated, but just not just undefeated, but it's just pure domination. He's finished every single fight. So I'd like to see that fight take place as well. So let's see how the division plays out. Um, and
Yeah,
then yeah,
so
it
yeah, I think what I want to give my honest opinion on Bilal's future. I wasn't that blown away, DJ. I wasn't that impressed. Where I think he's going to defend the belt for two or three times. I think Bilal caught Leon. I think personally he caught Leon more on a bad day, and he was good.
yeah.
He deserved it, and he was excellent. But I'm not. I'm looking at Bilal like, oh, I think he's going to defend the belt four times now. I think the belt's definitely up for grabs for the next guy. What do you think about that? Mainly
I mean,
because I
look, it
think
is.
Leon was just underdone, and the time he just looked half asleep. It was 5 a.m. by the time the walkouts.
Yeah, man, I completely see what you mean. I mean, it is definitely a possibility. And look, in my honest opinion, I feel like given how stacked that division is, and given how the skill set of those fighters were just knocking on that championship fight, like let's talk about Shavkat, who's literally next in line. It's like Bilal Muhammad's really good in terms of wrestling, but so is Shavkat. His wrestling base is extremely good. So there's gonna be a different type of challenge. And Shavkat, we've seen, has been demolishing his oppositions. So absolutely, that is a possibility. And on the other hand, also don't want to discredit Bilal Muhammad, because I mean this guy has been telling us fight after fight, look, I'm literally that good. And I feel like for once I want to give him that benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna say, look, it is going to be a tough fight for Shavkat as well. And I think it, obviously, hopefully, we won't have to wait too long to see that happen. But yeah, 100%, I am with you. Like, there is a scenario where we can see the um, belt change multiple times.
Yeah, yeah, no, man, yeah, definitely catching it live. I just thought, like, yeah, Leon's just way below what we were used to seeing, and obviously you got to give Bilal his first credit, like I did, but yeah, I just felt like he caught him on a bad day. But
Hmm.
speaking of someone who was caught on a bad day, Curtis Blades ran into what was a juggernaut now, an avalanche. Describe what your feeling is towards Tom Aspinall, man. Have you seen a heavyweight prospect like him since you've been
Nah,
a
man,
fan?
no, no, not at all. And for me, that was the fight of the performance of the night, but performance of the night, the story of the night, everything. Right? There was a lot going into this fight, not just in terms of this particular fight. I felt like more surrounding the fight. What's Tom Aspinall's future? What's going on with the heavyweight division? Who should John Jones fight? Like, what's going on with Stipe and John Jones? There's a lot out there, and it all relied on the type of performance that Tom Aspinall was going to have. First of all, a victory, and then in terms of how that victory came. And say if it was like a really tough fight and then he managed to scrape a win against Curtis Blades, obviously the talk of the town would have been, look, probably not ready for John Jones. And let's be honest, everyone knew this going into that fight. We said it as well. The shortest of time they fought the first time, Curtis Blades was having a lot of success. Curtis Blades is no joke. Tom Aspinall himself said that he felt that Curtis Blades is his toughest matchup. Given all that into consideration, I don't think even he didn't probably think that he could go in and finish it that quick. And the fact that he did now makes the stakes quite interesting in the heavyweight division. I'm with everyone. I know Stipe is your man, and I'm with everyone in terms of wanting to see that Stipe versus John Jones fight. But I just feel like that John Jones and Aspinall fight's just taken over a little bit in terms of excitement. It's just literally the greatest of all time versus, I feel, the best heavyweight currently in the world. And I'm not the only one who's saying it, like literally everyone is. And it is an interesting matchup. I still think, and this is my early predictions, if you may, I still think John Jones has the edge because of his experience and his skill set. Like, with Tom Aspinall is really quick. I don't think anyone's ever seen any heavyweights move that quick. And that aura of invincibility, that confidence that he's riding on, his fight time average is under 1 minute. So that he's finished everyone under 1 minute, right? So it's super impressive, right? And he's fought everyone in that division pretty much, right? So I'm very keen to see that. I know he opened as a favorite actually in the odds, but I just feel like still, John Jones is John Jones, but it'll be an amazing fight. Man, imagine that for Madison Square Garden. But Dana's confirmed that it will be Jones versus Stipe, which again, I'm very excited to see as well because you got, two of the greatest, going at each other. It's like a legend fight, if you may. That fight is the sole reason that that belt is still, the interim championship had to be defended because it adds to the value of that fight when two legends of the game are fighting, and they are fighting for the heavyweight strap. But look, Tom Aspinall seems like he's going to be the backup. I'll be, I'm super. I was even prior to this fight, I was very impressed with Tom Aspinall, and I think it's going to be a long reigning champion regardless of what happens. If John Jones wins and if there's a fight between them, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. If both legends retire, I feel like Tom will automatically be elevated to champion. And I don't see anyone beating him. The only person he hasn't fought in the current crop of heavyweights is Cyril Gahn. And let's not forget when Cyril Gahn fought John Jones, it was the same story, right? Like, you got some, you know, otherworldly speed and footwork, moves like a middleweight. John Jones went in and nullified everything. At the end of the day, when you're in there and you're facing John Jones across the cage, things are different. Having said that, man, Tom Aspinall seems extremely confident. I mean, he's very respectful. This is why I like him, right? He's an absolute killer in the cage, but he's extremely respectful. Even in his call-outs, he's very respectful. So and the fact that so many people are undecided on that fight and not sure how that goes, I feel like I don't think John Jones will walk away without having that fight. I feel like he will say, "Look, okay, fine, this is the one you're saying who's going to beat me. Right? Let me show you." Like, that sort of mindset will kick in. I feel, and then again for Tom Aspinall, he's extremely serious about this matchup. He wants that, man. That's what he wants next. And how many people call out John Jones, man? Like, it's not every day you call out John Jones. So yeah,
He did it in the most polite way, like
yeah,
truly, spoke proper spoken Englishman. But
yeah,
yeah, we got a bright future with this guy in the division, and we've got one legend obviously about to hang him up. Soon. Hopefully we do get the John Jones matchup, like you said, man. That would be so exciting. But first, it's Stipe, handle that
yeah,
business. Then we'll see if he's willing to, to address that smoke. But
yeah.
I want to introduce you to Alex Pereira, right? Could he be the first three-time division champ if he was to move up and be a heavyweight guy? I think he could be a guy to dethrone Aspinall, really.
My honest opinion, and you know this, man. You know that I'm one of the biggest Alex Pereira fans currently, right? Like, as in, like, everything he's doing, what he's doing, and his power, all of that. Does he have the power? Absolutely, yes. Seeing Aspinall more and more perform inside that cage, man, like, that's a tough fight for Alex Pereira. I just don't think, because at the moment he's doing something really great in that light heavyweight division. I feel like he probably should stay there because it is a very tough fight. It's a very tough fight for Alex Pereira. Tom Aspinall, I feel, edges it out. I feel, right, I feel he gets the win if they fight. Maybe if Alex Pereira takes time to put on size, because think of it, right? Even on his heaviest, he says he's around 235, 40. Well, some heavyweights are that, especially, you know, some of the lighter heavyweights. But people like Tom Aspinall, they're quite big, but then also they have speed. Right, Tom Aspinall has got power too, man. Look at like what he's doing. He knocked out Sergey Pavlovich. Like, that should tell you. So yeah, look, it is a tough matchup. I don't want to see that straight away. I know Tom suggested it somewhere. I don't know if it was in the post-fight press conference, but a tournament at the MSG card. If John Jones and Stipe and him and Alex Pereira fight, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good matchup. But again, look, Alex Pereira is someone who doesn't turn down fights, and he's game to try and do it. But I just feel like he needs to try and take some time to put on size before he does that. I feel right. As the older you get,
No.
it is going to be harder to cut weight, right? So he is still cutting weight for light heavyweight. What you want is for him to sort of like, okay, fine, maybe 2 more fights at light heavyweight, and then he's ready to move up to heavyweight. I don't know. I feel.
Yeah, you definitely make a lot of sense, man, and I just get carried away a bit. You rein me in a little, but yeah, like there's a reason we haven't seen a three-time, like one thing it's a challenge to be active, let alone actually
Mm,
accomplish that and
yeah,
dethrone a champion two weights classes above you. But if
yeah.
anyone can do it, anyone active, I believe it's probably
It is him.
Alex Pereira now, or
It is him.
Izzy, someone with that body type that's long and just
Yeah.
able to put on the weight, like
Mm,
basically like John Jones. John
yeah.
Jones, could have done it in his prime easily.
Yeah. But John Jones took time because one of the reasons why he took time away was to put on that weight properly, and we saw how that helped fight. Um, if you're going against like a heavy can like counter strike and sort of be nimble with his footwork, and say for example if you start fighting Black Beast or um, someone like that type of fighting style, Alex Pereira could have a lot of success unless obviously it's one. But with people like Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, they're like very quick. You know, so they're equally as talented in that striking department. So you got to see how that works. So
Yeah, yeah. And so let's talk about the third matchup. Paddy Pimblett got a huge stoppage, right? He put King Green to sleep. Man, what a performance! But King Green made a costly mistake, didn't he?
mm. Yeah, like I was very confused why he shot. But really, and he came in. It was super. Crowd was fully behind that walk. Every fights in London, that's and then he comes out right. He seemed confident for week. Obviously, we picked the way we were giving Bobby or King Green's experience an opportunity of, if you may, but obviously it wasn't the case, and he went for a takedown, and got caught, and then ended up in a triangle and almost popped his arm. But man, what a finish! In a card that, according to Dana White, had little to less finishes. Yeah, that was one of those few, but electric as him and Tom Aspinall actually. So yeah, um, it was a good fight, a good performance for Paddy Pimblett. Like, I mean, everyone was saying, who's he fought, and there's no name. I know he fought Tony Ferguson, but Green is a solid name. He's given a to some of those fighters in that top 10. King Green. So yeah, man. Like, I think I'm excited, like, to see where Paddy Pimblett goes from here. Maybe Renato Moicano, Money Moicano.
Yeah. As I've just pull up our predictions now, DJ, that is one where we both flamed out on. We
Yeah,
both went to King Green, and we both went Leon. Obviously, he's the favourite, the champ.
yeah,
But yeah, King Green, was it a big shock the way he lost it and the way Paddy,
yeah. I mean,
was able to win?
I mean, look, no, not a shock because obviously Paddy Pimblett is good. But what shocked me the most was that he go for a takedown. I mean, obviously we don't know what sort of was going through his mind. Maybe he saw an opportunity and he thought he could take it or surprise Paddy, because obviously Paddy would have been expecting a stand-up battle uh, from King Green. And either way, it was a costly mistake, like you pointed out, and cost him the fight. And he went to sleep.
Yeah, and so we have Arnold Allen that we predicted. You predicted Arnold Allen, and then also RoboCop. Uh,
Cop got the
yeah,
job done.
got the job done, and I missed that one. I went Leroy,
Yep.
right? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So how did Arnold Allen and RoboCop get the wins?
Man, Arnold Allen literally lost that first round. Strong in the second and I felt. Um, it was it was a close fight though. It wasn't like easy. Yeah, yeah. Arnold Allen got the job done. No. It was a close fight. Like there was a scenario where it could have gone the other way too. If you're Arnold Allen, you couldn't have if the decision went the other way. There was some questionable corner advice, which was pointed as well. I think even in the broadcast, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but and then Robocop as well. It was a somewhat action-packed fight, and he got that decision. Um, obviously, yeah, went the whole distance as well. So, yeah, man, good card. I know you picked Leroy and Giga, but um, they had a good chance, to be honest. You know what I mean? Leroy's a good fighter. Giga could have won this fight. So yeah, it's just a game of inches.
Yeah, and then a feature early prelim, Manel
Oh,
Cap versus Makayev, right? This is where the controversy really came in. Makayev, of
yeah,
course, you've heard the news, has been dropped, right? Take us into
yeah.
the whole antics, the theatrics before cage
Man,
side.
we said it in the preview that this is one of the fights that I'm really looking forward to. And it didn't unfortunately live up to the hype. That's all it was. I mean, there was a lot of antiques, as you say. The face off wasn't a there wasn't they weren't able to complete the face off because they were ready to fight there. They fought in the hotel. So one would think, these guys can't wait to get at each other and then just go and like bang it out. And eventually, what you got was a very long feeling out process at the start of the fight, and then sort of a very measured approach from both fighters. I think there was some action in the middle where Micaiah was pulling his shorts down or something, capes that is. Um, Man, like again, like we can't. It's easy for us to sit here and say, "Hey, they should have been a lot more they should have been more active or they should have done this and done that." But at the end of the day, they're high level fighters inside a cage, put sort of similar capabilities, and no one wants to lose, especially when they've had bad blood going in. They don't want to lose to the other person. So that kicks in, you know, and that sometimes impacts and hinders the performance. But what really sort of didn't sit well with me was all that led up to the fight suggested the energy of the pre-fight antiques didn't match the actual energy of the fight, which was a bit. I think I wasn't the only one, and I think a lot of people were expecting that fight to be a pretty good. It was actually on the early prelims, and then they promoted it to prelims. But and then later on we find out Dana White's comments on everything, and I also thought that it was odd that Makayev comes out and says, "Oh, they said don't shoot takedowns." Um, and we won't re-sign you, which seems a little bit. Even if they had said it, I think if you're on the cusp of wanting to re-sign, you obviously try and keep that out behind the scenes. So I was a bit surprised, and then when Dana was questioned about it, and I agree with Dana on this. I mean, there have been other fighters who shoot takedowns all the time, and they haven't really. Khabib was a very wrestling heavy champion, obviously, but yes, he was really good as well in terms of dominance and all that. But it's interesting. It seems like it is sort of what Dana alluded to was that it was a little bit more challenging to deal with. It could be the age, Obviously, he's still young. You know, he seems, he seems to have a temper, impulsive. It comes with age, and I think while the way Dana said it probably can be perceived as harsh, I feel the thought process behind that is correct. Maybe go to a different organization, get some experience under your belt, and then come back into the UFC. Sort of because we've seen time and time again with the UFC, it's not just how you fight, but everything else goes in. How marketable are you? How easy is it to work with you? Those kind of things play a big factor as well. The fact that he said PFL twice, and there was a rumor, and I say it again, it's a rumor. It's not confirmed. I just read it online that apparently his team had tried to negotiate with PFL prior to this fight if there was any deals, and maybe Dana got wind of that and they weren't happy with that. That could have been. We've noticed sometimes if you get into the wrong books or the wrong side of Dana White and the UFC management, that that they can be brutal. But then Mikhail also makes a good point where the PFL doesn't have a flyweight division, so it doesn't make sense for me to negotiate with them. So I don't know what we don't know, right? Like there's a lot of he said, she said. So bottom line is he's been taken out of the rankings, and I think he's been removed. I don't think this is the last time we see him here. I think he will come back. I think he'll just go out and gain experience, build his name, build his brand, learn from this experience, and then come back. And I think he'll be, older, and he will be ready to like sort of mature it up and ready to take on the challenge that is the UFC. He is a good fighter. He's undefeated, in terms of flyweights. But yeah, it's just he put himself in a very risky position, given like that division itself has had a lot of ups and downs recently. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, well said, man. Yeah, a lot of antics and bad publicity, really. If you're not delivering
Mm,
in the cage, if you're delivering in the cage and you're making the organization good money, then
yeah,
they could probably put up with that little extra
yeah,
baggage. But being
yeah,
difficult to deal with,
yeah,
all that stuff, pre-fight and hotel
yeah,
fights and all that, and then you get in the cage and you make a mockery of it.
yeah.
Basically, you don't. It's like they used up all their energy, and when
Man,
they wanted to fight, there was nothing.
I'll give you a good example. I had a friend who is not um, not a UFC fan or an MMA fan, but obviously frequent social media a lot. And he had seen a clip of these guys going at it at the hotel, and obviously then the face off as well. And he reached out to me saying, "Man, like you watch UFC a lot, right? Like, are these UFC fighters?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Oh, what time are they fighting? This looks like an exciting fight. Like they seem like they hate each other." So I was telling him, "Yeah, like you gotta like you gave him the time." I explained to him what the prelims were and to where you can watch it. And man, imagine that, tuning in, being a non-UFC fan, and then coming in excited. That's an opportunity, right? Between getting a fan and sort of losing them forever. Like the guy messages me afterwards saying, "What was that?" But yeah, that's the thing. That's sort of how it impacts, I guess, not just the fighters, but also the organization.
Yeah, no, great example, man, and yeah, perfectly put. I could see that. A lot of people, even if you are like a casual MMA fan, you just laugh at
Mm,
that and say, "Look,
yeah,
put that aside. I want to see the John Joneses, the Aspinalls,
yeah,
the Connors, and all of that. Not these two
yeah,
jockeys, fight with
mm,
each other. But as talented as they are, it's not
mm,
it's not the biggest division. We all know it's
yeah,
the least marketable division. Triple
yeah,
C had a lot of issues early, and
yeah,
well, not Triple C is obviously a little bit heavier, but
yeah.
yeah. And and we mentioned this just before coming on. We've got two big names ready to square off in Perth, in
Hmm.
Urseg and Kai Kara.
Yeah,
After Urseg and Pantoja, that's like
yeah,
polar opposite of, you want to see more of that. Two
mm,
professionals that actually
yeah,
delivered in the cage, DJ.
yeah. Absolutely, man. And I think that's why it's such a shame as well. Like, if one of these guys had gone out and put on a stellar performance, right, they would have been probably next for the title. Even if, say, Makayev had gone and like absolutely had like a crazy knockout or like had a stellar performance, I'm sure Dana would have said, regardless of everything else, like, man, people went nuts. That was a crazy knockout. Yeah, we are keeping him. You know what I mean? We're going to give him an opportunity. Not just that, we're going to give him that next title shot. But that wasn't the case, obviously, that which is unfortunate. But we do have Usyk versus Kaikara to look forward to, and yeah, guaranteed the whoever wins that will be next in line for the title. Who's the rising um, flyweight that's coming into the UFC? Because
Great
there was
question.
talk because there was talks that he will be fighting um, Pantoja in December, which is crazy because I mean, yes, he was a champ back there. So I can't find his name. Oh yeah, Kai Asakura. Um, so he's already beaten Manel Cape in a different organization as well. So he's been signed to fight in the UFC now. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if he was a champion, you give that champion coming in an opportunity. It'll be interesting because we've not seen. And again, it comes down to the fact that it is a very shallow division, talented but shallow division. So we gotta you can't sort of argue with that if they are going to give that title shot to Kai Asakura. Uh, yeah, he's from Japan,
Yep.
21-4. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, great ad. Always good to add new talent on the come
Yeah,
up. We saw how well that worked with Alex Pereira, and yeah, from
yeah,
a different organization taking the UFC by storm now. We'll see
yeah.
Urseg. Don't forget he was recently just added, and has been amazing in his first fight or two. I think he's only had one, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't the title
No,
shot
he's
his
had a
first ever fight?
no. He's had a couple in the UFC. Um, what was it? I think he's had a few, three or four. Um, all right,
Okay,
so
yeah,
he has had one, two, three, four fights in the UFC so far. Um, he beat Matt Schnell. That was a viral knockout. He beat Alessandro Costa, and then he also beat his flyweight debut. I reckon was Dvorak. Dvorak, how you say it. And then now he's fighting Kai Kara after he's lost to Pantoja.
yeah.
This is his fifth fight in the UFC. Um, yeah, but man, like
Yeah.
Usyk, since his title fight, you just sign me up. Like I'm excited to see him fight.
Definitely. So now, as we wrap up, get ready to wrap up, and I ask you if there's anything else on this card that stood out. But when you do that, give us your grade now. Let's grade the card. UFC 304. How will that be remembered for you?
Man, I'll give it a solid eight. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Primarily carried by the performances of Tom Aspinall and Paddy Pimblett, um, and also Bilal Muhammad as well to a certain extent. So whenever there's an upset, this also adds to the excitement. So yeah, so I'll give it an eight. What about you?
Nice, nice. 8 out of 10. That's cool. Yeah, I think I've said this before, but anytime the belt changes hands, especially in a major, main event, um, a title fight, and it changes hands, then it enhances the card a bit more because you remember it for that. I'll remember it
Remember
for
the
us.
name.
I'll remember it for Aspinall's, huge performance. Obviously, unfinished business. Finally, finishing Blades after, the tragic, first go around.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Paddy Pimblett definitely put his name back on the map. For me, his stock had really plummeted, but it's kind of
Mm.
back up. It's back up now. We'll see what he does. It's kind of like what side of the bed do you get up on with Paddy Pimblett? Like, won't be surprised if he just underwhelms again and takes a year off. But yeah, overall I thought the crowd was good. There was that controversy which wasn't the greatest. Bonuses went up, but then there was I want to get your thoughts on Dana's comments. There's 7 decisions in a row.
I mean, we know that it's Dana's not a big fan of like decisions, especially boring decisions, because look, sometimes it's harder. Like I said, when you get two professionals going in, no one wants to lose, right? So when you have that and win, obviously, sometimes you got to think these guys are putting in all on the line, gone through like a wretched training camp where they've killed themselves, and weight cut and all that. And if you lose, you lose half the money you're about to win. So no one wants to obviously lose, so they try and mitigate as much risk as possible. And unfortunately, a side product of that is fights sometimes turning out a bit boring or going into these draggy decisions. It seems like there was a few that night, and then Dana White wasn't a big fan. Obviously, it's not good for business. And his experience, I think his experience with the prior UK cards have been different, where there's been a lot of finishes, um, a lot of big moments, and maybe there wasn't that outside of that Aspinall and Paddy Pimblett moment. So he obviously was disappointed, but sometimes it happens. You can't help it. You know what I mean? Like decisions are not bad, as long as they're not just staying there and not doing anything. Then it's a different story. Um, but also, man, we got another pretty good card coming up. A fight night in Abu Dhabi, is it? Yeah, Abu Dhabi. Uh, and we got Nurmagomedov coming back. Not Khabib, but Umar. Umar is fighting Corey Sandhagen, like a high level bantamweight fight. I would like to think it's a title eliminator. We got Magomedov and Michael Oleksiejczuk. We've got Marlon Vera's back. Marlon Vera's fighting Davison Figueiredo. That's a crazy good fight. This was meant to be where Nick Diaz was fighting, but he obviously had to pull out. Tony Ferguson's fighting. Michael Chiesa. Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, that's a pretty solid card for a fight night. A good card.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for the update reminder on that one. And then, yeah, obviously, all eyes will lead to the next pay per view, Perth. The juicy main event: Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. The history between those two and that, and then of course the additions to that card now. Bam, and we've got Hooker, who hasn't been fighting in a while. Unfortunately, Jack Della Maddalena is still recovering from the injury setback as well. But the crowd is going to be insane, like we know firsthand. Perth. Look forward to that and previewing that as it comes. But I had to give my grade as well, and I agree with you. I was going back between 7.5 and 8. Um, if it's an 8, it's kind of like it barely makes 8, but yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere between that and 7.5, I think it was solid. But I just want to leave that little bit more room for a pay per view where it
yeah,
does blow us away, and it's just action finishes and all of that. Those are the 8.5s, 9s, 10s.
yeah. Like UFC 300 was up there, right? So that's sort of the grading scale that you'd use to compare these fights. So,
Yeah,
the
this was
standard
more of a
against
run of the
which the other.
mill.
Yeah,
Like run of
yeah.
the mill pay per view where it wasn't like bad, it wasn't like awesome. It was just like you said, just pretty good in some areas and just underwhelming in others.
Nah, fair man. Like fair. I'm with you on that one. You know what I mean? Like yeah, like it's barely a 8 for me as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you're Dana, think about him. Like you're trying to hype things up in the press conference, spur of the moment, you jack up the bonuses, and it's kind of like you're left scratching your head. Like, you know, maybe it was in a more of a grumpy mood because maybe the pay per view numbers weren't the best. I
Maybe he
don't know.
was.
Like
Like you could tell he wasn't happy. He read off at reporters as well.
also the time, like maybe a lot of the fighters were a bit grumpy too. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just completely so against DJ this time,
I
this
don't.
local time.
No, even for us, we can agree, right? Like I mean, even the Aussie cards, it still is held to suit the viewers online in America, which I get it. They probably make up the majority of the pay per view component. Having said that, though, like there needs to be some sort of respite for the local fans. Sometimes you don't want to be there at 10 o'clock on a Sunday, 10 a.m. watching a fight. You know what I mean? Like you just it's nothing like a evening fight, and we've never had that experience previously. The only time we've had it was when the Max Holloway zombie fight in Singapore.
Yeah, just one thing I just thought of though too, and I guess probably the reason it will stay, it will stay the way it is, DJs. I think obviously you said the US audience are big, but let's say it was held to favor the locals and the crowd. Um, let's say in America it's at night and you're sleeping and you wake up, like you're gonna hear the result. So they're gonna lose so much replay money. Like who's gonna, watch it again when you already know the results?
Yeah,
If you are living in the US, like all you gotta do is open Instagram or Twitter and you'll have seen who won already. So it's like they'll lose so much eyes on
yeah,
actually people watching it again.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense because I think most of the regions, I know in Australia there's pay per view, but most of some of the big regions, there's broadcast rights, etc. So it's not so much as pay per view. So they try to capitalize on that pay per view money, which comes from these regions. But look, I don't think I am with you. I don't think. I mean, look, most of the cards are in the US. They have that rare on the road cards. Maybe what 4 out of the 8 cards, sorry, 12 cards will be on the road. Um, and so look, we in terms of pay per views, that is. So I don't think it'll be unless it's a fight night where the pay per view's not in play. Then we might get one of those odd ones where it's a different start time, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, indeed, man, indeed. Well, this has been our recap of UFC 304 Manchester. One of many more to come this year. The second part of the year is when things get real juicy. We've got Mexican Independence Day, obviously Noche, which we're going to break down too. But we were a little underwhelmed with some of the announcements. But the spectacle is going to be awesome. We were just talking about the lineups, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, the way it was spoken about, I was expecting more. Like a great main event, great core main event. But I think it's just maybe partly rumors sort of made us get expectations up because someone said the Holloway Topuria fight will also be on that card, and I was thinking, man, this card is going to be like the best card in the whole year. But then we find out that fight's actually not there. Hey, look, maybe they were planning to do it in that, and then the Islam injury happened, and they're probably like left without a main event for the Abu Dhabi one, which we know they always bring a really strong card there as well. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's interesting because Bilal Muhammad and Islam actually is there too. They're doing a Q and A in Abu Dhabi day after tomorrow, the 2nd of August. So in light of this UFC fight night that's happening this weekend. So yeah, we'll have to. There's probably have to rejig and all that. It is interesting because Canelo is also fighting that day. They've gone and done that. Dana wasn't happy with that either. So they need to have that strong main event. Let's see how it goes.
Yep.
But look, it's no UFC 300. I'll tell you that. Like there were some, like even UFC 300 when it got announced, we were saying, oh, we were expecting some more fights, this and that. And this is even a little bit less in terms of star power. And not the main. I'm not talking about the main event of the co-main or some of the main card fights, but in general, top to bottom in comparison.
Yeah, Sean Marab, like it's yeah, but yeah, Sean they're backing as one of the future bigger stars. So
Yeah,
I could, I could see that. But yeah, this one's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support, guys. Smash that like button on YouTube. Let us know in the comment section what you grade this card, what your thoughts are, and we'll be back in no time to break down the next card as well. DJ, thanks. Peace, everyone.